Hello designers, welcome back to lesson 2 in Illustrator. Today we're going to be talking about objects, selecting them in a variety of different ways, and then also doing some modifications to those selections. So let's get started. File, Open, Courses, Art, Print Shop, Illustrator Lessons, Lesson 2, and then you're going to want Lesson 2, Start 1. Let's immediately save a copy of this in the cloud. So go to File, Save As. Saving it in the cloud. Make sure you are in your Illustrator Lessons folder, and we're going to call it by your first name, Lesson 2. So in my case, Heather, Lesson 2. All right. So let's just double check, and you may want to reset your essentials, but you want to make sure that you have your control bar or your control panel up top and your toolbox. If not, go to Window and turn those two things on. All right, mine are on, so I'm ready to go. To select objects in Illustrator, you simply need to use your selection tool. It's in your top left-hand side of your toolbox. And you can either click or click and drag. So I can either click on my apple or I can click and drag on my apple. So stop the video, try to select your top left apple now. All right. To deselect the apple, there's a couple ways to deselect it. I can either simply just click on a different object, or I can go up to Select, Deselect, or I can use the keyboard shortcut of Shift-Control-A, or I can click in the gray space outside the artboard to deselect it. All right, so practice deselecting now. All right. Beyond selecting one object at a time, you can actually select multiple objects to make it easier to make changes and modifications. The easiest way to do that is to select one object, hold down your Shift key, and select the other object. So stop the video and try selecting those top two red apples now. All right, I want you to go ahead and change the fill color of the red apples. Let's make them some other shade. I don't care what other color you pick. You can either use the drop down option in the control panel to the top, or if you want to be more creative, you can click on the foreground fill color and pick a color. All right, stop the video and do that now. All right, go ahead and deselect those two apples. This time, I want to go ahead and I want to select the two apples to the left. I'm going to click and drag. So now I've got a blue and a yellow. You'll notice here for the fill color, it has a question mark. That happens when you've selected multiple objects that are varying or differing fill colors. All right. This time we're going to apply a stroke to these two. So let's go up to the top and we're going to apply a stroke color. Let's pick a green of some kind. I don't care which kind. And then let's go ahead and deselect. All right, one last thing I want to show you with selections here is just some minor tweaks and modifications you can make to selections. So let's go ahead and click and drag over all four of our objects. Let's say we've changed our mind though. We don't actually want the hat. To get rid of the hat out of the selection, I hold down my Shift key again and click. Now the hat is no longer selected, okay? So again, I'm going to do that one last time. Clicking, dragging over all four, hold down my Shift, it deselects the hat. So just practice that. That's just a great way of making selections. All right, so beyond the selection tool, what are some other ways that I can select? Well, I can select based on similar fill and stroke color. So for instance, let's go ahead and click on our top left apple. Let's go up to Select, Same, Fill and Stroke. Now you'll notice nothing else is selected. Why? Because there's nothing else in this document that has both the same fill and the same stroke. However, if I have this first apple selected and I go up to Select, Same, Fill Color, notice it selects that other blue apple that I have. So go ahead and stop the video, try that now. All right, go ahead and deselect that. Let's reselect that same top apple. This time we're going to go up to Select, Same, Stroke Color. Notice it now selects those two that have the same stroke color, but not that other blue apple that didn't have the same. So that's just a really nice way when you get really complex images. Maybe you have like 100 little circles that are all the same color. Well, it's a lot easier instead of trying to shift click on all of those little circles to click on one and then go up to Same, select Same, and it will select all of them. All right, so stop the video, play around with that just a little bit now. All right, the last way I'm going to show you is the Magic Wand tool. The Magic Wand tool is an advanced tool, so we're going to have to load the advanced toolbox. So go up to Window, Toolbars, and click on Advanced. You're going to notice you have some new tools here. So the Magic Wand tool is underneath the Selection tool because it works similar to the Selection tool. If you click on that, notice if I click on my apple, my blue apple to the top left, it selects the other apple that's the same exact color. Now I can make modifications to this. So if I want to select not on the fill color, which is the default for the Magic Wand tool, but instead I want to select based on the stroke, I can change that by opening up the Magic Wand tool panel. And instead of selecting based on fill color, I can select based on stroke color. So if I click here, oops, let me click off on that. So I've got stroke color instead. I click. Notice now it selects based on stroke color. So that's one more way to simply make a selection. So stop the video and practice that now. All right, let's go ahead and deselect our apple. And we're going to practice just a little bit about changing size, scale, and color. All right. So to get rid of an object, so we're going to get rid of the hat. If you don't want an object, simply click on the object and hit the delete key. So go ahead and delete the hat now. All right, let's talk about changing shape and size. So to change the size of something, you have to start with the Selection tool. And then what you're going to do is you're going to drag one of the corners. But you'll notice when I start dragging my corner, if I'm not real controlled about it, I can distort the shape of that. Okay, that's called your proportions. So if I want to constrain the proportions, which means keep them so I don't accidentally distort it, that what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Shift key as I drag one of those corners. If I hold down the Shift key and drag, I can make that apple bigger without distorting it. So stop the video and try that now. Excellent. All right. The next thing I'm going to show you is you can also rotate that same an object. So click on the second apple in the top right, and if you let your cursor hover outside of our bounding box, you're going to get double-headed arrow. And notice you can rotate. I can also completely flip my apple. Remember, if you're resizing, you need to hold down Shift, otherwise you could accidentally distort your object. All right? So stop the video and just practice resizing your apples and rotating them a little bit. Okay, great. Now let's go ahead and talk more about how do you alter the actual shape. Not just resizing it or distorting the proportions, but actually physically changing the shape of that object. So let's start by clicking on one of our apples. It doesn't matter which one. But this time we're going to switch tools. We're actually going to grab the other white arrow, which is your Direct Selection tool. What the Direct Selection tool does is it allows you to alter just specific anchor points, which are the little points that make up your object, not just the entire object. So once we have our apple selected, you have to tell the computer which anchor point you want to make changes to. So click on one of the anchor points and you'll notice these little handlebars will shoot out. The handlebars are directional lines. So I can click and drag and rotate or change the direction of that line. I can also move the anchor point to reshape it. So go ahead and stop the video and just kind of play around a little bit with trying to kind of change the shape of your apple a little bit. All right, excellent. All right, what I want you to do now is I want you to get one really good apple. So I want you to make it whatever color you want. I really want a nice, juicy, delicious red apple here. And I'm gonna put a slight stroke on it just to give it a little bit of something. Oops. I'm also going to review with you quickly once you have a stroke. Remember, you can change the weight of your stroke. I can make it bigger or thicker. I can even change the thickness. So instead of making it uniform, I can actually change it so maybe it goes from thin to thick. I can change the brush size and shape of the stroke. So I can click on this menu here and let's say I want kind of a textured bristle brush. I can click on one that's got a little bit more texture. So again, stop the video. I want you to have one really good apple that it's the color you want. It's got a nice stroke and outline on it. All right, now that we've got one good apple, let's talk about making copies, because what we're going to do is we're going to fill our tree here with a bunch of copies of our apple. Before we do that though, we're going to want to lock our tree a little bit because we're going to be making a lot of changes here. So we're going to select both the top of the tree and the trunk. So either by clicking and dragging or clicking and holding down the shift key, I want you to select both the top and the bottom of the tree. All right, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna group this together. So once they are active, you're gonna right click and go to group. Now notice if I deselect it, all I have to do is click on the trunk and it's automatically gonna select the entire thing because I've grouped those two objects together. It's like linking them together. So stop the video and I want you to go ahead and group that tree together now. All right, to ungroup, so I'm just going to show you quickly how to ungroup. So if I wanted to be able to move this top of the tree, I'm going to click on it, and this time I'm going to right click and go to ungroup. So now I can grab my tree and I can move that top a little bit and then regroup it. So stop the video, try ungrouping it, moving the top of the tree a little bit, and then regrouping it. Excellent. Okay, so now we're ready to go. We're ready to make a bunch of copies of our apple, and I'm going to show you two ways to do that. The first way to do it is simply to go select on your apple and go up to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste, and you'll get a second copy of your apple. All right. Let's go ahead and move our two apples up onto our tree. If my apple is not showing like it's not here, I'm going to make sure I go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front, or right click and Arrange, Bring to Front. We're going to review that again later. All right, so we're going to want to make some more copies of our apple here. Instead of going to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste, this time I'm going to show you a shortcut. Select one of your apples, hold down your Alt key until you get double-headed arrow, and click and drag. Notice I've now made a copy. I would like you to make several copies of your apple. All right, stop the video, try that now. All right, I also would like you to resize, so make these, resize them, rotate them. So I want them to be a little bit more irregular. If you would like to change some of the color, you can. Just so you've got some variety. All right, stop the video, make a bunch of copies of apples, and have them rotate. All right, now we need to make them look like they're actually in the tree. So the easiest way to do that is to make some more objects of the tree, some copies of the tree, and stack them on top. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a new tool. We are going to grab the Ellipse tool. We want to pick the same exact color for this green tree. In order to do that, we're going to use this, which is called the eyedropper tool. So go ahead and click on the eyedropper tool, and I want you to click on the tree top. Notice when I do that, it's going to make my fill color the exact shade of green that I had there and a stroke. All right, now let's go ahead and go back to that elliptical tool, and we're just going to click and drag just some circles or some ellipses just over some of the apples. What we're just doing is we're just kind of faking the leaves, and we're just making it look like the apples are a little bit more in the tree. So stop the video and try that now. All right, now we need to group this back together. So how do we group? Right, we're going to click and drag, right click and group. So now my apples are part of that same group. All right? All right, let's go ahead, and we want to make sure that our tree is in the very center of our artboard. So click on your tree, and in your control panel up at the top, you should have some alignment options. If you don't have this, please call me over because I'll have to reset some essentials in your computer so that you get it like this. But you should have alignment options. There also should be a little option here to either align to the selection or align to the artboard. We want to align to the artboard, so make sure align to the artboard is selected, because what it's going to do is it's going to put it in line with the edge of this paper. And we want it smack dab in the center. So we're going to start first by clicking on the horizontal align in the center. So it's going to put it in the very center of the paper, going horizontally, and then we're going to vertically align it as well. So we're clicking this button here and this button here. So now we know our tree is directly in the center of the page. Right, the next thing we want to do is we're going to lock the tree so we can't accidentally grab it. So click on your tree. We're going to go up to Object, Lock, Selection. So now if I try to click on my tree, I can't click on it. Okay, so go ahead and lock that tree selection. Excellent. We're getting there. We're almost done. All right, so let's go ahead and move back over to our first artboard here. I'm going to close some panels to clean my space. This time what we're going to do is we're going to align not to the artboard, but to that we're going to align objects that are ungrouped. So I want you to select all of your fence posts here, either by clicking and then holding down the shift key, or I'm just lazy, I'm just going to click and drag across. All right, so we've got this selected. Up in your control panel, notice you now have a couple new options. You have Align to Selection and Align to Object. I want you to click on Align to Selection, and we want to make sure they're all level at the bottom. Not necessarily the top, because they're different sizes. So we want to make sure that we click here, which is Align Vertical Bottom. So now we have them all aligned on the bottom. All right, excellent. Let's go ahead and grab the crossbar of our fence post. Stack it on top of our fence. And now we need to group these objects together. So select all of those, right click, and go to Group. Almost done. All right, let's go ahead and grab our fence post, and we're going to drag it onto our artboard here. All right, but we want our fence in front of the tree. So this last part here is talking about arranging. I'm just going to review it. But in order to put this on top, I can either go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front, or I could have just right-clicked and gone to my Arrange, Send to Back, Bring to Front. Okay, so go ahead and try that. I want you to bring your fence post in front of your tree. All right, the last thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to unlock that tree. So let's say I wanted to go back and fine-tune this. So I need to go to Object, Unlock All. So now that's back. It's still grouped as an object, but it's no longer locked to that page. All right, so with the rest of the hour, go ahead if you would like to fine tune, maybe if you want to ungroup this and you want to go back to some of your circles, maybe make them different, slightly different shades of green so you get a little bit of depth in your tree. If you want to make some copies, go ahead and make some copies. Have a little fun with this. If you'd like to make it color in the background, how could you do that? Well, an easy way would be to grab the rectangle tool, fill it a color. I'm going to fill this a nice blue color. And then I'm going to send that to the back. So you have the rest there. Just start playing around a little bit. Just make sure that when you're done, you've got a tree with a variety of apples on it with a nice picket fence in front. That's your lesson today, all about how to select, make slight modifications to objects. Good job.